Hi, soul being absolutely beautiful every time. Welcome to the mothership, my artship, whatever you want to call it, but Mental Alchemy Academy. And today I was just gonna riff because I just have this information I want to share, but I'm not sure what the title of the video is going to be. But essentially, it's about not being conscious of the parts of you that are disconnecting you from your wholeness. And a lot of us are creating a life that is coming from this unyoked embodiment of ourselves. And this is why we find ourselves in a lot of situations where we're constantly sourcing power outside of ourselves. And this old earth that we're moving away from, that we're disintegrating our energy from, was created from sourcing outside of ourselves because we were manipulated into it. We were forced. We were fearfully disconnected from our own power. So for survival, we chose to just assimilate and do what everybody else was doing just so that we could hide behind the facade. But now we're in a whole different age. The power truly now is within us because Divine Feminine, I mean, you can't even catch up. She's so mysterious. The energy is always 10 steps ahead. There's so many different limitless potentials and possibilities of going to the same direction. So you really cannot contain her. It's like you're trying to contain the ocean in a pond. You can't really, you can probably just contain water so you can have a closer look at it, so that you can have that essence closer to you. But the whole ocean, you cannot. And this is what you're doing when you're creating life only from your conditioned mind, only from what you've been given, only from what you've seen, only from what other people are telling you, from other people's limiting beliefs. Everybody has limiting beliefs because we need limitation to actually experience something, to experience the human, to experience the third dimension. But you want to do this consciously. You want to do this where it's in alignment with the principles that your soul wants to live according to. So the church, the old church, right? The one that was used to colonize, the one that was used to control, disconnects us from soul. Most of them don't even recognize the fact that we have soul. And that is a big issue. Because now we find ourselves waiting for Jesus. There's always this waiting energy, waiting for something outside of us, right? So in the church, it's waiting for Jesus to come back. In Disney, romance is waiting. It is waiting for the one, right? There's always this waiting energy, waiting for someone to save you, waiting. And that waiting energy is what is disconnecting you from your power, from taking action right here, right now. The person that you're waiting for is your higher self embodied, right? Okay, so it's your higher self embodied. My gosh, sounds everywhere. Higher self embodied. So which means that, what does embodiment mean? It means you take action. You actually are being the person. So you're waiting on yourself to actually take higher action that is in alignment with your higher way of thinking. That is in alignment with higher perceptions of power, not lower perceptions of power. You're waiting on you to take action that balances the chaos that's happening within, that balances the energy that's happening within. And when you're not taking that action and you're waiting, you become depressed, you become anxious, you become so frustrated with life, like you feel like life is closing you in instead of like opening you up to so many different yummy, delicious experiences. So you want to take full responsibility for what you're choosing to do. Yes, we were conditioned. We didn't, your human self doesn't believe that you chose the family of origin. You didn't choose the conditioning that you got, right? You didn't choose to be traumatized, right? but your soul has a different perspective of this. It's a higher understanding of the principles of creation, of life, of everything mysterious, right? So your soul can never be a victim to life. Never. It's your human, right? When you're only creating from your lower self and you keep forcing and trying to penetrate the third dimension, reality, life, your problems from that limited mind, instead of actually surrendering and allowing your soul to take over, right? So there's this yin yang balance that's always happening. In the principles of creation. This is why you got a mom and dad. It took your mom and dad to create you. Excuse me. And there's always like penetration, there's always this, right? There's like a completion. There's we complement each other. We've got opposite two sexes, right? In biology. So you want to be aware of, so in tune with where your soul is calling you towards, because your soul is always in alignment with with divine order. It's always in alignment with the bigger picture. It's always in alignment with higher understanding, and this is where you want to always lean towards. And a lot of us were seeking that outside of ourselves. We're waiting, we're outsourcing our power, and this is leading to a lot of disconnection in understanding of life, of receiving information. Because imagine somebody who's sourcing the power from outside. They receive information differently from somebody who's sourcing information from within themselves, because it's a different consciousness state, right? The one who's sourcing power from within themselves, they understand themselves, they're enlightened, they're aware of what's going on within, they're aware of where they're being pulled most of the time. And when they're not, they pay attention to the patterns of their past, so they can have an understanding of oh, okay, this is where I gotta look for me to understand what's going on. Somebody who's sourcing power from outside of them, they always find themselves in being a victim, or blaming other people, in being powerless to their emotions. They don't understand how to work with their four bodies. They don't understand how to maneuver and manipulate the energy they have to the benefit of their higher self, to the benefit of their divinity. They don't understand all of that. And we all have different stages of evolution based on our purpose, depending on our soul age and whatnot. But if you're watching this, you are meant to reconnect to your power and actually embody that in this lifetime. So when you find yourself constantly chasing love outside of yourself, waiting for love before you can actually start living and creating your dream life, you are literally limiting your own potential, and you're cutting yourself away from source, because you are you're outsourcing that power, you're outsourcing that love. You're not actually accessing that inner oasis of love. You're not allowing yourself to be embraced by the divinity within you, which is why you always feel like something is missing, like you need something to fill the void, which is why you're constantly looking for vices, which is why you're constantly looking for, you have your own particular vice that you use to numb yourself, right? Why you continuously go back to those things is because there's an emotion, there's a feeling that makes you really uncomfortable. And usually those negative emotions are like shame, unconscious shame, specifically guilt, constantly criticizing yourself, especially if you grew up in a household where you're constantly disempowered instead of being poured into and being brought up and having a healthy sense of self. If you came from a place where you didn't have any of that, you always find yourself in cycles of, no matter what, you're never enough. No matter what, you're never good enough. And because when you're a kid, you're always looking for something to make you feel better about yourself. And whatever you looked at, maybe it was seeing somebody being loved on and having attention, and you're like, okay, bet I'm gonna have a man. That's my only objective in life, to find a man. I'm gonna do everything so that I'm perfect, so I'm chosen by a man, so I'm better than everybody. So you bring other people down, because it's bringing that competitiveness, because you have this deep desire to be loved and chosen the way you weren't by your parents, the way your parents couldn't. So this is like the dynamics that happen when you're not really conscious of what motivates you to create, what motivates you to be who you really are. You want to really pay attention, because yes, your human didn't choose your conditioning, but your soul did. And your soul understood that these experiences would help you transmute and alchemize your experiences into gold, because only you could do it, because you were meant to deliver a specific frequency of information that will help us bridge from old earth to new earth. But when you're judging your past experiences, when you're judging where you came from, when you're blaming your parents, you're blaming other people, when you're feeling like, man, like no matter what, I'm never going to be good enough, you're like keeping that negative loop of here being wrong, of judging your human. You will never open that loop to allow the divine to fill that loop in, so that you're enlightened and you integrate your lessons, so that you're actually embodied and you're becoming this 2.0 version of you, that you are actually waiting for yourself out there and awakening it to that version of you being in here, right? When you're disempowering your human, and you're judging and shaming your human and criticizing your human experience it was meant to have, so that you could actually understand your motivations, you are missing the whole point. So you want to leave room for grace. You always want to have like a cushion, you want to be your safest safe space for yourself. No matter what's going on in the world, no matter how other people perceive you, you want to be your safest your safest safe space, no matter what. And that is what the work involves. It's all about really looking at the narratives that you've taken as your own, that were never your own, especially if you grew up in an enmeshed family system. Learning how to individualize yourself without feeling guilt and shame, learning how to identify things within you that were never yours but were projected onto you, and you took them as your own, and you started creating your identity and your life from them. Learning how to identify them and letting them go, and also giving yourself grace and allowing yourself to receive help, to be seen as vulnerable. Because once you're vulnerable and you're able to receive the love that this whole time you're seeking, but the love usually is not what you think it is. It's not going to come in the shape that you think it's going to come in. There's so many different expressions of love, the different ways love can show up. And the best one is the one where you're just being and you're receiving life, divine love. That's the best one. That's the one we truly want, because it's unconditional love. The ones with humans, because humans have limitations, humans have their own conditioning, humans have their own trauma, they have their own limitations. So the true love that you're seeking is the one where you do the work to continuously connect to the inner oasis, to your safe space. And this is something I help you with in Mental Alchemy Academy. And why my one-on-ones are all about soul marriage activation, because it's so important for you to be whole, because the life you start creating and attracting from wholeness is completely different from the one you create from your unconscious self, from your programmed self, from your conditioned self. Completely different. The version of you that is seeking and wanting outside of you, there's a certain energy that comes with that. And that's why you can never find yourself resting, because you're like, I'm not complete, I'm not whole, I'm not enough. I need to keep going. Even when you're resting, you're not really resting, right? When you're sleeping, you're not really sleeping because your mind is going like, right? You're trying to piece information together like, man, I shouldn't have shown up like that. I shouldn't have said that. You're trying to control your human instead of actually creating a safe space within your psyche, within your mind, so that no matter what your human does, you're legit. I don't care how other people perceive you. I love you. And I know like you're not going to be perfect because we came here for a human experience. If I came here to be perfect, I wouldn't have incarnated on earth. But I came here to experience the beauty of imperfection. And the fact that I can be imperfect and still be loved. And still be that girl. And still be that guy. And still be my dream self. So it's learning how to create space for duality. It's learning how to create space for knowing and not knowing at the same time. It's learning how to create space for having and not having at the same time. And not letting not having define your worth, not having define your social status. Social status, it's all a human construct that is serving a purpose for somebody up there who benefits from it. Really ask yourself, who benefits from these social statuses, from these social constructs? Ask yourself that before you start engaging in them and creating to fit into them. Ask yourself those powerful questions, because when you start asking yourself those powerful connections, it becomes easier to decondition yourself. It becomes easier to notice where you're sourcing your power outside of yourself, where you're living life to fit in instead of life that really resonates with what your soul came here to express and to create. And really being honest with the emotion you're creating and connecting with yourself from. Because if it's shame, you're always seeing yourself in the mirror and like, ew, gross. And I'm speaking from experience. I used to do this a lot. You're like, ew, gross. Oh my gosh, I don't like my beauty spots. I don't like this. You're judging everything about you. You're not being your safe space. You're not. So now, of course, everywhere you're seeking for that safe space outside of you. And this is where it's so easy for you to attract predators. It's so easy for you to entertain people who are not good for you. Bullies. Entertain bullies as friends. Just because you want other people to give you something you can't give yourself yet. Just because you want, you feel you don't believe you're enough. And that's why it's the most important work you're ever going to do. It's loving yourself, accepting yourself, embracing yourself. Being okay with your humanness. Being okay with not having the things you thought you would have by now. Being okay with your wounds and your weaknesses. Being like, oh yeah, laughing at yourself, right? Not taking yourself seriously. And this safe space all comes down to your inner relationships, the relationships that you are watering into within yourself, right? So your inner relationships are all those conversations you're having after you've left 3D, right, with a person. Let's say you met somebody yesterday and you didn't vibe, or they triggered something within you. You're going to keep that energy imprint within you, that conversation with them within you, right? Those people who are living rent-free in your mind, let's not act like they're not living rent-free. They are there, right? We're having a human experience, so let's be honest, right? They're living rent-free for a reason. They are there to guide you back to your sovereign self, back to your God-given throne. And your God-given throne is always within you. It's a matter of are you sitting in it and creating from it, or you're letting other things sit in it? Because if your demons are sitting in it, that's where you become a victim of your mind. When you're allowing other people disempower you, they're the ones sitting in it. You're not. So you gotta really pay attention, like, okay, who's sitting in my God-given throne? Is it me? Because if it's me would I be responding to these circumstances like this? Would I be making such a big deal about this? It's not about faking it. It's actually about where you need to be to respond as if you're sitting from your God-given throne. Not as if. From sitting from your God-given throne, because you can't fake this ish. In the beginning, it'll be uncomfortable because you're deconditioning yourself. You're recentering yourself. You're calling all your energy back to your center. It's going to feel a little uncomfortable. But with time, it'll feel like remembrance. You'll be like, duh, how come I wasn't doing this all this time? Right? So it's an earned embodiment. You just don't wake up and have it. You came here to earn your embodiment through your choices. Through your choices. So your inner relationships, what conversations you're having, where you're positioning yourself within, because those inner conversations, they're reflecting an identity. This is what a lot of people call self-concept, right? How you perceive yourself. Other people are not perceiving you how you're perceiving yourself in your mind. You're the one who's projecting that perception of yourself. And guess what? Because of how other people are positioning themselves and their own conditioning and their own trauma and their own limiting beliefs, they're going to position you wherever they're going to position yourself. Wherever they're going to position you. You have no control over that. This is where your human bows down, right? Not bows, like bows like this, right? Say, this is where I end. This is where I end, and I respect your sovereignty. It's okay. I love you. I'm unconditional love. You can position me wherever you want to. You're not wanting to control where they position you, because you're so secure within yourself, because you have better things to do with your energy on a higher level. You're not trying to control where people position you because it's futile. You can never do that, because people have if you really want healthy relationships with people, that you're coming from this unconditional love, like, hey, position me where you want to position me. You're autonomous. You have free will on what story and narrative you want to create, and I have free will to create what I want to create with you, right? And it's a matter of what principles you're creating life from, what principles you're creating relationships from. And this is what we're doing in Soul Driven Radiance, which is my intimate space. And you can find more information in the currently enrolling link below. It's all about awakening to your sovereignty. It's all about awakening to your free will, to your center, to your God-given throne. It's all about being a conscious creator. It's all about being a conscious, being conscious with where you're investing your energy, being conscious of where you are co-creating with life, because life is always reflecting where you are. So when you see what you don't like, you're like, oh, okay, this is my opportunity to come within myself, look where I am engaging with this, where energetically I'm plugged into this frequency, and come and do what I call emotional recoding, so that you actually are in alignment with what you really want, right? Which is, you want to feel these lighter emotions, but for you to actually be able to shine bright, you need the contrast of darkness, right? It's not about bypassing your human, it's about integrating your human, and that's what we're doing. So I hope this resonates. Otherwise, if you have any questions, put them in the comments below. Let me know what you took from this. Otherwise, see you on the other side.